Future State Green Lantern issue 1 with Jethro Thorne, Ryan Cady, and Ernie Altbacker as the writers across all 3 stories. We'll mention the artists as we go through them because there was too many to, and the reason why it's not just that there's too many to name when I'm saying them out loud, it's because I actually use this list to go into the timestamps, and then on YouTube specifically, when you highlight like a part of the timeline, it'll come up saying whatever I've named that timestamp. Mm-hmm. So if you have too many names, it just is a big long list of incomprehensible nonsense. So it's not just me being lazy and not wanting to say a bunch of names, just for the record. I mean, it's part of that.
Sure, that's part of it. Yeah,
it's part of that, but like it is what it is. Anyway, so yeah, Green Lantern. Yeah, this has got 3 stories. We've got 1 full story and 2 sort of 10 or so pages stories. I will say there's one that was okay in the middle. It was okay. The middle one.
I like the back 2. I didn't enjoy the main one.
Yeah, I think the middle one is the strongest. The last one I like, but don't love. The first one I really did not like at all.
The first one's frustrating because in the first couple of pages, I'm like, okay, this is kind of old school art, and given that it's got this kind of sci-fi warrior thing going for it, John's with a couple of other Green Lanterns, but they're not Green Lanterns just now because they don't have rings.
No, they don't have and Nort is who, or is it Gunnort? Whatever it is, the dog Green Lantern has like gone full on feral. Looks more like a dog than he ever has, right? Yeah. And it almost felt like Thorne wanted to do an Omega Man story within the confines of Green Lantern, and I don't think those work.
Yeah, and we got Salik, who's got because he's got the 4 arms, so he's wielding like 4 pistols. So like in the first couple of pages, I was like, oh, this could be a fun little story. Like I don't, this seems like a fine idea. And they're in the sort of mid battle, and I'm like, oh, that's fine. Like many comics, it'll start off in battle, and then it'll give me the context as it goes. I got to the end of the story, and I felt like, where was my context? What's going on? Why are we fighting on this planet? Who are we fighting?
And that's part of what I was hinting at earlier in the show when I kind of said I can judge writing and storytelling as opposed to the specific ideas I can disregard. But I think this is 20 pages, give or take, right? This story. This is a full issue, and if this was your issue 1, this is an issue 1,
I wouldn't. And
you as a writer or storyteller can't give me any context for anything. That's unacceptable.
No, so what I gained from this was that they are involved in a conflict on a planet, right? And something happened to the Green Lantern power battery, so they're no longer Green Lantern energy.
Yeah,
but
and that's something that's reinforced through all stories,
right? And that part's fine being a mystery.
Right.
Yeah,
but the only reason I that sticks out so much is because it's retold in the following 2 stories.
Well, none of them have any rings.
Yeah.
Right. But like the rest of it is like there's spaceships, and it's very much just
all I can really tell you about this is that they're fighting a wave 1. They sort of win and then go. That was basically the amateurs and the kids. The next wave's going to be tougher, and then the ending cliffhanger of the story is just this army comes out. There's like one brief flashback to seemingly a dying Kilowog. Telling John
this whole thing with the god in red that is supposed to be a big thing that we're supposed to give a shit about, and it had like even the whole page is an introduction. I'm like, what is this?
It just kind of ends with them mid battle, like, okay, it's a bit of a standoff, and we don't know if we'll win. And I'm like, but we kind of just started that way. Nothing's happened. Like nothing's advanced. There's no context for anything. I don't know. I mean, there's a point about halfway through this issue, I'm like, wait, am I even taking in the dialogue anymore? Or am I just kind of like reading like a zombie and not really?
No, I get that. Like, the only real change from the start to the end of the issue is that Nort is seemingly dead at the end.
It seems like it.
Yeah, he's skewered. John. Yeah, the dude with the red cloak has got a.
The only reason I say seemingly is because this is a comic cliffhanger after all. But I mean, I'm assuming they've got free reign here to kill a few people off and consequences.
I like John's look. I mean, when I say look, I mean like the beard and the hair. I like the,
Sure.
Well, because we're so used to him being so clean cut.
Yeah.
That like here it's
Mad Max John Stewart looks kind of cool.
Yeah.
I'll give it that.
Yeah. This just didn't work for me, and then I got really worried because I missed Green Lantern, but judging from what Thorne, in that first solicit today, Like maybe this isn't indicative, but why was this
it
the
has
story?
me very worried about
Me too.
that book for the just on the storytelling basis of how can you
no,
have a
I
full
mean,
issue and not present anything?
I'm not arguing that I am not worried. I am, of course, concerned that I'm not going to like this new Green Lantern book, but I will give it a chance. I'm going to read issue 1, despite the fact that I didn't like this at all. Mainly because it didn't like it wasn't completely painful or anything like that. It wasn't like I was reading a book where like, the dialogue was like irritating to read or anything like that. There was just nothing. So I mean, yeah, that would be a problem if I read issue 1 of Green Lantern and I feel like there's no story. But my assumption is that this has to just kind of be this snapshot because he's only got 2 issues to do the story or whatever. My assumption is that because we're going to be set in present day DCU and we're going to have kind of like a training of the new Teen Lantern kind of story, that it's going to be a lot more coherent and traditional in how it's told from the start, and maybe we'll see a better example of his writing. But yeah, this was just nothing. There's nothing.
I did not, and it kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. So I stopped it, and I didn't finish reading the book until later, which was is a shame because I'd like to follow me too. But I was like, okay, I need to take a break from this one just after that. So, so if we're rating this one, are we ready to do that?
I'll just mention the art a little bit more, I guess. I kind of like it in a sort of old school kind of way. It's not all great, but I do kind of like the sort of I don't want to say 90s of it, but
no, it does have a 90s quality to it. Like
I don't know if you have read any of these, Matt, but it reminds me a lot of the like the mid early 2000s Star Wars, the Clone Wars comics. I don't know if they were actually Clone Wars branded, but
I know what you're talking
the stuff
about.
set in that time period. It reminds me a lot of those things, which it kind of suits what this story is supposed to be, I guess.
Yeah, I guess that's my point, is that like I can tell what it wants to feel like based on the art, so I think the art's working for what it's doing. It's just that the story's just not there.
Yep.
So, yeah, we can read it now then, this first story. We get it, Matt.
I'm going to give this a 4.5.
Connor?
I'm going to give it a 3, because I think it just fails at telling any story.
Yeah. I'll go with a straight 4. Like, it's not painful, it's just nothing. Like, you know, it's just, I'm not angry like I am when I read a JRJR, like, drawn issue.
Well, but I'm glad when I saw some sentiments on Twitter this morning that it wasn't just me, because I got worried. I'm like, okay, well, maybe this was just me. I wasn't in the right mind frame to read this.
No, I think this is the general consensus, at least from what I'm seeing as well.
And it's been so long since I've read a consistent Green Lantern book. Like, it's literally been since the end of Green Lanterns.
Yeah.
And I mean, not counting Far Sector, which is kind of its own separate thing, but you know, it's been since what? When did that book end? 2017, maybe early 2018. That ended. So it's been a while.
It's been a good couple of years, yeah.
So the second story is the Jessica Cruz story, and she's the sole lantern in the
Sector House.
The Sector House, yeah. And 3 Yellow Lanterns come aboard, and they're basically here to just sort of like raid it and like pick apart anything they want because they know the Green Lanterns are done. And Jessica Cruz with no ring is basically die-harding around the place, taking the Yellow Lanterns out by surprising them and jumping them. And I mean, this is fun. It's a 10-page story. This was like a really strong little Jessica, and it's been a while since I had one, so it was kind of nice to...
I have a ring now. Ho, ho, ho.
Well, she even takes one of the yellow rings, actually, when she takes out the first one.
It chooses
comes to her. Yeah, which, you know, the thing that I always love about...
She takes the rings off them.
You're talking about the end of the issue. I'm talking about she takes it from his finger and puts it on her necklace.
Right, so he can't use it.
Yeah.
Right.
You're talking about the ending where it chooses her, and that's a different thing. That's...
Well, no, but that's what I love so much about the character of Jessica Cruz, right? Is like there was this whole with the emotional spectrum of fear versus willpower, and with her it was that she was so driven by fear that she locked herself away, right? She's constant struggle with anxiety and all this other stuff. And then, her arc has been, courage isn't just having the willpower, it's the looking at fear in the face and operating anyways. So the fact she does all this, takes out Sinestro Corps members.
Yeah, she takes
without
out
a ring.
Yeah, she takes out two grunts. If at the end of the second grunt, the one who was coming for the big axe, there's a really nice panel of her in like silhouette in the smoke after she's done it, and it does genuinely make her feel kind of badass.
I think the art in this story is pretty great.
Yeah,
pretty good, great.
And she's left to take on the head of this little squad.
Alyssa Drac, who's
there you go.
the keeper of the Book of Sinestro, which all the Johnsy and stuff, and but no, just the fact that the ring ends up choosing her because she's feeling the fear, but she's using it almost as a fuel.
It's you possess the ability to instill great fear.
Right.
It's that she has made these Yellow Lanterns terrified of her.
Right.
Yeah, I mean that's basically the story. Is that she has to, because she's got no ring. She does it from the shadows. She literally, because the first one she hides behind a corner and says, "Hey, don't move or I'll blast you." She uses sort of basic intimidation tactics to kind of win. It was psychological. So yeah, the story ends with her getting a yellow ring, which it says it's the end. So I don't know if she's going to show up in another story in the next issue as a Yellow Lantern or something, but
it's possible, or it'll just be because obviously this time we got Jessica, and then we got Guy in the third one.
Mm-hmm.
It's possible we've got like a Hal and a Simon story next time.
Yeah.
Judging that Hal seems to be missing from all Future State stuff, I don't know if that bodes well.
Yeah, it was a nice touch in the narration box at the end as well, where it switches from green to yellow, kind of over a couple of them.
Yeah, I do like that.
It was a nice
Which
touch.
I do, if you notice too, that her font is almost also in yellow as it goes. So when it finally does turn, like it was yellow on green throughout. Because I had to go back and see if it started white and then became yellow.
It's kind of like I think it's more of a bright green on the darker green, but I can see where it kind of feels yellowy in context with them and the contrast.
Simple little story, but it was a nice idea. Again, an example of, okay, the lanterns all went out and they don't have rings. She's stranded on this place, and this is her trying to hold her own with 3 Sinestro Corps members without a ring, and succeeds. And then with the twist ending of, the ring chooses her to. So she does have a ring of some sort now. And will that play a factor in anything later in Future State, or is it just a fun little story on its own and that's it?
It could be just, hey, look, there's potential to play with Jessica as a Yellow Lantern somewhere down the line.
Yeah.
Well,
so
I always remember that when they introduced her at the end of Johns' run, right, was that she was going to be one of the biggest threats to the Green Lantern Corps. And that was always something that Johns had just kind of left it with.
He just threw it right at the end in the Book of Sinestro, right?
And so it was just like, So I wonder if like this is a pickup on that, or if this is just a fun storytelling, because just the idea of her as a Green Lantern living with that fear, and then her being able, because it's not the first time like a yellow ring has chosen a Green Lantern. I mean, that's Sinestro's entire gimmick.
I was going to say, that's 101.
But the fact that she could weaponize, you know what I mean? Just because she lives with it all the time and whatnot, could this unlock something in her that leads almost to that John story, or is this just another Lantern ring crossover?
I don't even know if it's referring back to that. That could almost just be us fan.
No, but and that's fine.
Things.
But I like that exists still.
Yeah, and the Guy Gardner story. I suppose we should rate the Jessica one.
Yeah.
What you give it, Matt?
I'm giving this an 8. I like this one.
Connor?
I'll give it 8.5. In the art elevates it.
I'll go straight 8 as well. I enjoy it for what it was. Then the Guy Gardner story at the end here, the Book of Guy, is he still. So this starts off with him still with his Green Lantern ring, and the part of the joke is that all the rings turn off when he's in the middle of a situation. So then he's sort of lumped here. He's on this planet between these two warring factions who are very religious zealots, and they believe that the space debris that's fallen from the sky to be something that their I don't know, the leaders want or their gods want. So they're warring over
a divine relic from what was their god called?
Oh,
there was something. Well, I mean,
well,
yes.
That's the thing. So Guy is stranded on this planet, and he's just uses his smarts to essentially become someone who he tries to basically stop them from killing each other all the time. So he spends years learning the line, because we skip ahead 5 years. What's 1 year first, then 5, then 25, I think. Like it goes a way ahead in time, and he spends all this time trying to teach them to. For a start, the big thing that really stuck out was let's not use the word heretic, right? There's no heresy. There's just, you can disagree with someone and they can like something, because the whole joke
we
is
can have religious tolerance.
Yes. There's a whole joke where he says that he doesn't like a certain flavor of jelly, and then someone else says they like that flavor, so the opposing tribe say, "Oh, heresy! We Guy Gardner's told us that's a bad jelly." He said, "No, it's okay. Someone else can like the plum jelly. It's fine."
Yeah.
So it's alright. I mean, I like this more than the first story. But
I thought it was great. Him becoming a leader just by default. Like. And him having to not give into that, because Guy's the first one to fight you when you say that grape jelly sucks, right?
Right. But
so
he
the fact
becomes
that
like
he's
an actual bureaucrat as well.
Yeah, trying to manage through all of that. It's a fun little wrinkle to Guy's story,
Yeah, I wasn't in love with Clayton Henry's art, I have to say.
I feel that's Clayton Henry, though. I feel like it's always up and down. You never know what you're going to get with it, because sometimes it's really good and a lot of fun, and I think, though, I like it here more than I've seen it other places, but I know what you're saying.
It had the same consistent Clayton Henry long face syndrome that I think is kind of how I'm referring to it. But other than that, I quite liked it. I thought it worked.
Yeah, ending is that Lobo shows up and kind of becomes their new prophet.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and Guy's like, damn it, so close.
Yeah. That's okay. I love the affinity for Guy that you do, so I'm kind of like, yeah, this was fine. It's definitely better than the first story. It's got a story, if nothing else. So.
Yeah.
It has character arc as well for Guy over the course of these 25, 30 years, whatever it is.
It just made me realize, like, Guy is one of those characters, though, that if you know the story you want to do with him, I think it works. Even Pete liked the story. He doesn't even care about Guy.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not super. I mean, I don't love it, but it's still it's fine.
No, but yeah, you didn't dismiss it just because it's Guy.
Yeah.
Like, so, but no, I mean, it's not Venditti's Guy Gardner, right? Like,
it's not.
It's kind of lacking that panache. So, but it was fine. But
I think that's kind of in a way the point, though, is that Guy has to not be Guy Gardner.
Right, and it works, and it doesn't have the same, like, to me with Jessica and the second story, it doesn't have that same where it hits, but it still, the story still worked, I guess.
Yeah, I still like this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, Matt, what are you rating this particular story?
I'm gonna give this one 7.5.
Connor?
This one's a 7 from me.
I'll go with a 6. I think it'd probably be a little bit higher, but I think Henry's art here just kind of rubbed me the wrong way a little bit as I was reading it. I wasn't super into it. So I'll go with a 6. Rating this as a whole is a really, like, daunting thing, because I feel like you've got one full story and 2 half stories, and I just mean in terms of size, not what the completion sense of it. But
I have to figure out what mine is now.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing because the first one's so negative, and because it's half the book, I feel like it weighs more than the other two, even if you do like the other two.
I agree. That's definitely like the main story and the one that should have the most weighting, even though I like the other two considerably more.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's just a straight. I don't think it's a 3-way average.
No,
is what I'm saying. I think, that theoretically, like that first one counts as 4, and the other ones are like 1 each almost.
Yeah. All right, what are you giving it, Matt?
This gets a 6.
Connor?
I'm gonna go with a 5.5. I think I like the other two just enough to say it's above average overall, barely, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually going to be the harshest here. I'm going to go straight 5. I don't know, because I don't know. I think my overall feeling is disappointment, because the Guy one's okay. I like the Jessica one, but I don't think it elevated the whole thing enough for me to be like excited about this being the first Green Lantern book I've read properly in a while. So
maybe it helps for me a little bit that I haven't got that hang up, because I've been reading, the Hal Jordan book, so I'm not like desperate for Green Lantern content. So this isn't like super important to me in the same way.
Yeah. Bye.